Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.
I'm Al Bledsoe, Veterans of Foreign War, Post 1108.
I'm Ron Chappell, chaplain for Vietnam Veterans Chapter 777 here in Richmond, and co-host here with Elle on Proudly We Serve, and we're glad that you tuned in today. And ladies, our guests, I'm going to let you introduce yourself so I don't mess up, okay? We'll start with Yvonne.
Okay, my name is Yvonne Rhinehart, and I work at the Dayton VA Medical Center.
Okay.
And my name is Teresa Murphy, and I also work at the Dayton VA Medical Center.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on our second session, and we're going to talk about some other things now that you're here.
Yes.
Some different outreach programs that the VA actually has, and Teresa's the head of. I think she explained in the first session about what she does. But Yvonne, why don't you take off and give us what's going on, and then we'll go right into what Teresa's working.
Okay, absolutely. I've been at the Dayton VA Medical Center for 30 years. Started as a patient advocate and then merged into the overall feedback for process review and analysis. See what we can do, what we do well, what we need to change. One aspect of that would be outreach and community and public relations. That is actually the service that I work for. We are a lot more engaged with the community now than we used to be.
Sure.
The VA system used to kind of be separate, and now we really work hard to have community engagement, work with the community, let the community know about us and the services that we can provide. The other aspect of that is making sure that veterans know that there's benefits available to them, and that's where Teresa comes in.
When you said process feedback, is that feedback from veterans or community feedback, or?
Mostly from the veterans, and we have several avenues to be able to hear the feedback. I mentioned in an earlier segment that being a patient advocate, you listen to individual concerns, sure. But then you need to add them together and see what are we doing that they don't like, make some changes to that, because, administrative people who are making decisions don't always know how it's perceived by the veterans who are actually receiving the care. Yes. So we want to get the feedback on, did you have a good appointment today? Do you feel like we covered everything that you needed to talk about? Did we give you enough time? That kind of thing.
Okay. Sure.
Do you plan your events ahead of time? Like, do you know where you're going to go next week? Or
yes.
Do they want you to give you 6 months?
Better than me. I don't know.
Yes, there's lots of planning involved, because it can even come down to money as well, because sometimes you have to pay for different spots at different events.
Okay.
A lot of times, because we are a nonprofit, we do get into a lot of events for free. If we tell them that we work for the Dayton VA and it's geared towards veterans, that's another usual, never mind, you guys can participate for free, because they want to get that word out to the veteran as well.
Sure.
But then there are others that you do have to pay, and with the government, they have to get into the system and things like that, which can take a little while. So we usually have things booked out about anywhere from a week to I already have October booked. So
Okay.
if I know that there's successful events, I also have an assistant. Her name is Kayla. So when we work together, if we know that there's a successful event that we know we got great feedback, lots of veterans who really didn't know about their benefits and the services that we provided, or that we provide, then we know that that's some place to go back to, and we'll make sure that before we leave that event that day, we book it for the next year.
Now, what kind of event would you might have to pay to participate in?
A lot of times the home shows, things
that
like
right?
that, things that
I can't
are,
imagine that.
If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't have a home. Okay.
but they got to make their money too. So, but yeah, every vendor.
shows.
Yeah, we
shows.
go to car
Gun
shows.
shows.
Yep, the gun shows, things like that. And even if I say pay, I'm not saying we have to pay a lot of money. We just have to pay something so that way we can hold that table. It's not usually an absurd amount or anything like that. So yeah, there's we usually know way ahead of time.
How,
events.
let me put you on the spot just a
Yeah.
little bit. How successful is Wayne County and Richmond been for the outreach that you're doing. You know, I can remember we didn't do stuff like that. I mean, all the outreach was done by veterans and word of mouth or email, and now, God
and you guys
forbid, we
do
got
great. The committee
thing
you guys
called-
are
Yes,
on,
the-
you guys do so
yeah,
much.
you guys
Facebook.
are our outreach.
Yeah.
You guys do a lot of our outreach, and even if you individually can just say, "Hey, Teresa, there's this event coming up," and a lot of times I can jump right on that and I can go to that, and I wouldn't have that connection if it wasn't for the committee that you
Sure.
guys are on. So how successful it is depends on, you know, how many people are actually at that event, things like that. But usually the C-Box, the community-based outpatient clinics, they have their own individuals that go out to the different events. I just sometimes tag along to those
Sure,
since this
yeah.
is outside of the main Dayton area. And then that brings us up to the pizza party that you guys are supposed to be having here soon.
Yeah, exactly.
In Richmond, which is another outreach event for you guys, which is going to be successful.
Don't
See?
tell him it's food, see?
Free pizza.
Yeah. He'll be there before you are.
So I say any event we go to is successful. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter where it's at, because as long as we're out in the community, and
Sure.
I've talked to at least one veteran, we've helped somebody.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's success.
That passion and drive is just something that I think, just looking back, that's something we all strive for. And it's kind of one of those things, you either got it or you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't, I don't want to.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you talk about it.
Yeah, you can't
there's so much
manufacture it.
energy in it, you know.
It's just-
I love it.
It's just in you, so.
Yep.
Now, so you guys are kind of responsible for the eastern part of Indiana and then Ohio?
Well, the Dayton VA Medical Center is kind of like the hub.
Okay.
We have an outpatient clinic in Middletown, Lima, Richmond, and Springfield.
Okay.
So we, I guess you would say, responsible for assisting with the Richmond catchment area.
Okay.
We depend so much on your community, your local veterans group, to tell us what things are going on, and to tell us what a lot of veterans enjoy.
Right.
You know, when we first started looking into this, nobody would have thought, hey, let's go hang out at a car show. Let's go hang out at the gun shows, you know. We need to know what your local veterans are interested in. I didn't know about your memorial park until we started
Right.
Yeah.
our
Oh, it's
veteran
awesome.
group.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. They took me down there twice,
Yeah.
and the Huey that you guys got.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Isn't that
it's
something?
amazing.
Yeah. That's the one thing about this group of veterans. We do stuff. We do stuff. You know, we enjoy celebrating our past and our time together now, you know, and as time moves on, we're praying that the younger veterans will pick up and, you know, carry it on.
And that's what we need to kind of focus on. We've got to find a way to get the word to them, and make it interesting in a way that they want to come check us out.
Yeah. Prior to the program, you mentioned something that kind of a light bulb came on for me. I thought about, and that is community or some community personnel perceptions of veterans, especially those who have been
Combat.
in combat and have combat-related injuries or PTSD, et cetera. You want to elaborate on that?
Sure. One of the things I'm very, very proud of is that I feel that the Dayton VA is a safe place. Our veteran patient clientele is unique. Again, I'm going to give an example of my father. He was a Vietnam combat veteran. So I grew up seeing that my lifestyle was a little bit different than my friends, whose families were not military related. My father had mental health issues, but they were undiagnosed for a number of years, and we almost treated it like it was a secret. He would get overstimulated if it was crowded places, and he would get grumpy, and he would want to pull back and go home. Definitely, we did not go to any place that had fireworks. We didn't really go any place when it was dark that there was going to be a lot of people. We moved out into the country. We didn't live in town. My friends had to be vetted before they could, come over and spend the night and stuff. So things were different.
Yeah.
But we didn't watch military shows on TV. That was a big trigger for him. And when he would have an issue or an episode, he would need to, now I understand the word is isolate, but he would go in his room for a couple days. Things like that I didn't understand. He didn't feel safe or comfortable talking about any of that. Our family didn't feel safe or comfortable talking about it. But after I started working at the Dayton VA, I encouraged him to come, and he actually got mental health services. And then he turned around and he brought in a lot of other veterans. He worked in a warehouse. There was a lot of veterans there. They didn't even talk to each other. To know each other were veterans until it was almost like he felt the spirit and went out and started talking about it. And then, I mean, he was bringing guys in, and that was the biggest thing that he said to me that really touched me was he just said, I finally feel safe talking about it. Yeah, I finally feel like I'm understood.
That's a big part of it. That PTSD business is, that's still something that just plagues the Vietnam guys and some of the guys now coming home from Iraq and places like that. I don't know what to think of a government that we get involved in things like that. I'm not so sure that that's in our best interest sometimes, but some of these guys are really damaged merchandise. I mean, and I don't know, it just kills me to see a guy that you know has that problem and you try to help him, but he's so turned off or something.
Well, it's too personal.
And it's too
and it's a sign of weakness. So they don't want to admit it and they don't want to talk about it.
There.
You can't really can't solve the problem unless you're.
But what everybody needs to understand is there's no way that you can't come back unaffected from combat. There's no way. Our chemical makeup is that, you know, when something is startling or scary or, you know, overstimulating to you, you have a fight or flight. So soldiers are in constant fight or flight with no downtime in order to be able to repair. It can chemically change you. It's hard to explain that to your family. You know, if they don't get you into the VA system where we know and we accept and we understand these types of things, and we can help your family understand it. So you can come up with coping mechanisms.
Well, I think the VA understands problems like that where you can't just go any place that they understand problems like that. I mean, those are very deep type problems.
Well, people don't have an iota of a clue what that experience is like. When I go to a cemetery and I look down at a grave, it reminds me of my home in Nam, because that's when I slept at. 2 people per grave around the perimeter of our camp. And it was scary. It was scary.
And constant.
And constant, yeah, it was. And we had sandbags, and then we had that temporary airstrip perforated steel.
Yeah, no, it's
on top. Yeah, that was our roof. Yeah, thank God I made it out of there. But anyway, but those memories come back, you know, and other things trigger memories. I think I handled it fairly well. I think my faith has a lot to do with me being able to, you know, handle stuff. So.
Well, I think that has to enter a lot. I mean, when you have problems like that, I mean, that's something.
And family support, that can make or break. You know, one of the things that we see with the younger guys that are coming back, you know, they got younger wives, you know, so they're not as well versed or understanding about why there's a change in the person that they married. You know, they've got young children that they're coming back to. They're expected to come back and all of a sudden fit into a very fast-paced civilian life and fit into our molds of what we think you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
There's not a lot of places that have accommodations and concessions for the fact that you're a changed person when you come back.
Yeah.
How many young ones, do you know how many young troops we have in Wayne County? Do you ever do studies like that of how many people?
No, I do believe that the U.S. Census Bureau, they do have a way that you can look it up per age, but usually we don't look up per age, we just look up general population of veteran.
Veterans,
just
right.
Veteran, period. Veteran is the focus, and that's usually what we focus on, not so much the age.
Well, from what Pete's told us, Pete McDaniel's on our show, he's our service officer, that we're really down right now when it comes to getting people into the VA system, and
Correct.
just young troops joining in general were down. So I don't know how to correct that. I don't know what we can do to help reach out to those younger ones.
Well, one of the things that the Veteran Stakeholders Committee talked about, I thought
Yeah.
was an excellent idea. One of you guys, and I can't remember, it may have even been you,
Yeah.
had suggested working with the Student Veteran Association
right.
at local colleges. Again, I'm not a veteran, she is. I do have family background, but that doesn't
Yeah.
make it that I have the unique experience that you guys do. Veterans, young veterans, don't want to talk to us. They don't want to talk to people like me. They
Yeah.
want to talk to somebody who is a veteran. So for you guys to get involved and to help us do this type of outreach, that's how we get veterans up to the table and get them to open up and talk. You know,
Yeah.
they feel safe. They're going to feel safe talking to another veteran.
But we got to get them into our organizations, and so that we can, fellowship with them. And
Well, see, we all fight that, of the younger generation, Sometimes the only way you can understand is just jump in the middle of it, because right now we just don't have any, what I would call young people, 35 years old. To us, a young guy in a club, for example, or whatever's 50. And really, reality is that's not very, that's
Hey,
not,
now.
that's not, I know.
you got to get paid.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah,
You can't, and how do I want to say it? The younger ones, the 35-year-olds, the 30-year-olds and stuff, that's the heart of the guys coming back. I would think of the 25-year-olds and things like that, but they just don't have any business dealing with anything except the VA system, the clinic and things like that. I think they need to be involved in stuff like that, but it's so hard to even get them
Get
to
'em in. That's
to,
the
to get them in, to come in. You can offer to buy them a dinner or buy them anything, and that just doesn't seem to appeal to
We
them
have to
that
meet them
much.
where they're at.
Yeah.
And one of the unfortunate aspects of coming back to civilian life is coping, and not everybody copes through religion and through family support. A lot of our young people are coping with drugs and alcohol,
Drugs and alcohol,
and then unfortunately the drugs and alcohol inhibit good judgment
Yes.
at times, and so sometimes the bad judgment can end up with a call from the police.
Yeah, sure.
And then significant legal issues. And so one of the things that I think that the veterans group is going to look at working on is trying to establish a veterans court.
I was just thinking of
Yes.
that. Yep.
Now Montgomery County, Greene County, stuff closer to Dayton, they've got a couple of veterans courts up and running, and they run great. The prosecutors for those counties are very proactive. The judges are very understanding of veterans, and actually, a lot of the veterans have never received health care because in their mind they're young, they're healthy, they don't need health care. But you have a judge who's going to say, you can either go to jail based on what you just did, you can go to jail for a year, or you can go into a rehab program for 6 months. Which do you want to do? Well, they may not have the means to pay for a rehab program. And some of the rehab programs that may be of a lower cost are not geared towards veterans.
Right.
They do still have special, unique issues, that need to have a unique understanding in addressing it. So that's one of the main things that the Veterans Court does is it says, did you know if you're eligible for care at the Dayton VA Medical Center that you can go in for some of these therapies and rehab type appointments and stuff for free.
Yeah.
They're here to help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and some people, I want to go ahead and talk about both sides of it. Some people get frustrated when they hear about Veterans Court and they say, well, it shouldn't be a get out of jail free card for, bad behavior. It's
don't
not a
get it.
get out of
They
jail
don't
free
get it.
card. I feel strongly about this, as you're going to be able to see. So veterans are unique. We send our men and women off to protect us and our freedoms. We don't have a clue what they're dealing with, especially our combat men and women.
Yeah.
So they come back and they're different. They are not the same as somebody who has not had that happen in their life.
You're right.
So we owe it to them. They earned extra understanding. They didn't earn a get out of jail free card to be a criminal, but they've earned a little extra understanding. So that's all we're trying to say is, hey, if we can work with the local police department, if we can work with the local sheriff's department, as you know, we've had our sheriff,
Right.
Sheriff Ritter, I believe, had come in a couple times. If we can have this be a one-time incident and we can provide the support and the assistance that they need to turn their life around, why wouldn't we? You know,
Yeah.
they have a chance.
Look
They
what
also
they
have a
did.
chance to not do it.
See, that people don't look. If that person very well might not have come back home at all,
Exactly.
so they risked their whole life, and so I
And
don't
they're still
think we
fighting
should-
in their mind.
Yeah. And I don't think we should withhold any help or assistance. And I'm not just saying it because I'm in that group, but yeah, I think the country owes it to
Exactly.
veterans. Yeah.
Exactly.
Why doesn't the VA create a list of young guys like in Wayne County that are serving, coming home? Why don't they create a list to call people and just ask them where they're at with it? I mean, it's a fair question to say, where are you at with it? Is that a way to do things? Or it seems like there's so many privileges and privacy laws anymore that
I was
you
just
can't-
going to say,
Yeah.
that whole red
Yeah, I
tape
was
we
gonna
talked
say,
about.
You can't get.
It sounds like a great idea, but you know, where would you get all that information, and is it
processing.
okay to contact them? You know,
Why not during out processing, where are you from? I'm from Richmond, Wayne County, I'm from Dayton, okay. So that information goes to that agency in that locale, and then that agency would call Sergeant so-and-so or Private or Colonel so-and-so, whatever, hey, how you doing? How are things going for you?
Now, I read something on Military Times that they said that they were supposed to be starting to do something along those lines, where they were going to keep that information from the recently discharged veterans, and that they were going to give them like a 6-month follow-up call.
Yeah.
I was just reading that recently in the Military Times, but I'm not sure when they're supposed to be starting that. Now, that's not the VA side, because we're healthcare. That would be more VBA side, which is the benefits side. Rich, yes, we are separate, but we still work together hand in hand. But technically, when it comes to that, we are separate.
Yeah.
So it looks like younger guys, though, even given everything with healthcare especially, it looks like that would be a benefit that they would want to jump on. Because healthcare is expensive. I mean, it's horribly expensive to buy health insurance nowadays. So the younger guy, I think that would be something that would be a marketing type tool that they would listen to. And then some guys are just young. I just talked to a young man. He was at, he's in the Honor Guard. He works, but he's getting deployed the 1st of March. And guys like that, are they eligible for health care? Can guys, is he eligible? Or?
It all depends. Once he comes home, that's when you have to submit the DD-214 and go through the eligibility paperwork. You have to have been, you have to have had some kind of DD-214, some active duty. Usually training doesn't count. Annual training for those that are National Guard or Reserves, that doesn't count. Even MOS training, things like that, unless they're injured on active duty, and then that process would be started while they're on active duty. But that DD-214 is usually what gets you in the door, and then from there you have to fill out the eligibility paperwork, and then they will let you know as to whether or
I
not
think he's
you
going to
qualify.
Yemen. Is that?
Yemen?
Is that Yemen? A country called Yemen, I think, for 4 months.
Okay.
I think it's from March through August.
Yeah,
I
he
think
gets
told
that
me.
DD-214 when he gets back, and have him call me.
Yeah, he's really.
2-year rule from everybody's eligible when they come out of the military for 2 years? Or do I have that wrong?
No. What they have is there's a 5-year rule. And no, it's okay. There's a 5-year rule. Now, I don't want to speak too much on it because there are a lot of different eligibility requirements for you.
Sure.
It depends on where they're deployed to. But I do believe Iraq, Iran, and there's a few others that it has to be considered combat. And usually the local eligibility office at the VA can answer all the questions when it comes to that. But there is a 5-year rule that you're eligible for health care, but it has to be combat related. So anything that you might have gotten while you were on combat, you can be covered for up to 5 years once you've returned. But it depends on what your military orders say, what your DD-214 says. And there's different types of eligibility for that, but that's the 5-year rule.
So what is our government? I just thought of a thing that this just come up when we killed the guy in Iraq, and then they ran through over a couple rockets, and then the government said nobody was injured. Then they come out and said, well, we got 50 guys that have minimal head injury. How in the world do you determine that they had a minimal head injury? And this was like a week.
Right.
How do you determine that? I sat there and I thought, what are these guys talking about? They can't diagnose that in a week.
Yeah.
Have a minimal head injury. I don't even know what that means. I
couldn't tell you either.
One thing I will say is that it is free to apply. So
Yeah.
go ahead and apply.
Yeah.
Even if you're not eligible 1 year, the next year you may be eligible based on if it's income based. So it doesn't cost you a penny to go in and answer a few questions and find out if you got free healthcare.
So well, we're going to have to.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe we need to put some flyers up in like laundromats and I'm serious.
Yeah.
The bars.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because the VFW, you remember?
Yeah.
It had the wrong phone number on a flyer. And so that was one of the first meetings was Butch Markham had said, hey, there's a flyer up, but it's, people keep calling the wrong number. So we go to the VFW so we can check the flyer. He's like, here, come on, it's in the men's restroom.
Okay. So listen, we got to run out of here. Is there
This is
a
let's
number or anything that people can call you if they want more information?
Yes,
or-
I have it written down over there off camera, but I'll bring it back for our next session.
Okay.
Our next session will begin in just a little bit. We're done with session 2, and this has been real informative
great.
today
Yeah.
from the Dayton VA, and we appreciate you
Thank you,
ladies
ladies.
coming.
Thank you for having us.
And
Thank you very
we'll
much.
Thank you.
See you here in just a little bit.
Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.